All right. So good morning, everyone. My name is Aiden Street. I am the chair of the Oklahoma Library Association Advocacy Committee. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the 2021 Oklahoma Library Association Virtual Advocacy Day. This event was made possible through the hard work of the Advocacy Committee members and our legislative liaisons with MMR. If you're just joining us, please remember to keep your microphones muted during the entire event. The record feature and the live caption feature is turned on. After the event, we're going to work with the webmaster to make sure that the recording and a transcript of the event is available to members. We will be using the chat feature to gather any questions from our audience members. If you haven't done so already, please take a moment to say where you're joining us from in Oklahoma today. While you're doing that, I'd also like to welcome Kathy Blackman, president of OLA. I saw that she has joined our call. Welcome to any Friends of the Library members in Oklahoma and any library board members and staff that are joining us today. Before we do get started with our state legislative panel, I would like to invite Lisa Wells, director of the Pioneer Library System, to say a few words about her recent participation in the American Library Association virtual fly-in with members of Congress. Lisa?
Thanks, Aiden. It was a great week. Virtual fly-in always means you don't have any travel delays, so that's always a plus. We did meet Catherine Lewis and I. Many of you all know Catherine, formerly of Norman Public Schools. She retired last year and is currently the past president of the American Association of School Libraries. And through Catherine's work with AASL, we've been doing the virtual fly-ins. I guess this is our third year. And I'm sure most of you all know that Congressman Cole sits on the Appropriations Committee, and that committee is sort of the oversight for IMLS funding as well as LSTA and IAL. So that's the Institute of Museum and Library Services, the Library Services and Technology Act, and the Innovative Advancement of Literacy. Approaches to literacy. Yes. Thank you, Aiden. So those are the only dedicated federal funds to library service. And so we're always actively working with congressional districts and our senators to try and get that funding increased. So this year, the LSTA, it's currently at 197 million, and we're asking for an increase up to 206 million. And the IAL is currently at 22 million, and we're asking for that increase to be at 50 million. And last year, they reauthorized IMLS, and it did see an increase. So we're always very thankful that Congressman Cole is a big supporter of libraries and really is aware of the work that libraries do. It helps that he's an avid reader and historian. It helps that he is really interested in what we can do for tribal libraries and broadband. So one of the things that I think as Oklahomans that we can be very proud of, and is reflected in this map that Aiden has as a part of this presentation, that is provided to us by Oklahoma Department of Libraries, is that not only do we have an abundance of school libraries and special libraries and academic libraries, but we have a public library in every county of Oklahoma. And at that public library, we have broadband connectivity. And just like Representative Hassenbeck is sitting in the parking lot of the Lawton Public Library, we see that each and every day. And what we see is a lot of people doing field reports, whether that is oil and gas workers or home healthcare workers or our local police departments. We see cars in our parking lot every day, people connected to our Wi-Fi. And we're just so happy that most of our public libraries have elected to keep that Wi-Fi on 24/7. We're not throttling it back after business hours, but leaving it there to be a real live 24/7 resource. And I shared in our federal legislative day, which our meeting was on Tuesday, I shared with Congressman Cole's legislative assistant, Shane Hand, who is new to managing the education portfolio, they had some change in their office staff, and Joshua Jackson left, and they divided his portfolio. So Shane is now the legislative assistant that oversees healthcare, education, and one other piece that wasn't important to me, so I didn't commit it to memory. Sorry about that, but he does have something else in his portfolio, but healthcare and education. And I was able to share with Shane a story that I learned only last week when visiting some board members for Pioneer Library System in Shawnee. And they were talking about being at a local forum for the school board candidates, and that there was a person running for school board who actually owned like an oil change place and a tire place. And he made the comment, and he was talking about the need for broadband and high-speed connectivity. And he made the comment that during the school closures, that in his parking lot during business hours, he kept seeing all of these cars parked in the parking lot, and they were not coming into the shop. So he couldn't figure out what they were doing. So one day he decided to just go and check, and he said this particular car had 4 students in it, and all of those students were on their mobile devices connected, doing virtual learning from the parking lot of an oil and tire lube place. So I think that through the pandemic, so many things that we've known all along have really been heightened our awareness to. And I think that the need for connectivity and for us to bridge the digital divide in some way, and to look for equity, because it's so important to everything from workforce development to career and college readiness, just to day-to-day living. We see all the time opportunities for us to work with customers that come in that don't have connectivity, trying to do FEMA or SNAP or unemployment or any variety of government resources that they're trying to access. And often the very first thing we're doing is helping them get an email address because they don't have one. And then it goes on from there. But in our conversations with Congressman Cole's office, we felt very good about that conversation. We believe that because all of our state libraries do such a great job of managing the IMLS and the LSTA funds, on the federal level, they're really kind of held up as the poster child of entities to distribute funding, because they do such a great job, and there's really good documentation of the impact that those dollars are having. And then those dollars are coming back to the state and going out to our frontline citizens. So we feel good about federal funding for libraries. And we also took the opportunity to talk a little bit with the congressman about the Build America's Libraries Act, which would be some infrastructure for libraries to either do a master plan or do a technology update or a redesign or for a new build. We're looking at that bill to provide $5 million. And it has a lot of co-sponsors already, a lot of bipartisan support. At this point, Congressman Cole has not signed on. And I think in conversation with his staff, the concern there is really just there's not a revenue stream attached to it right now. So we're continuing to work with the ALA office and provide the congressman any updates that we can. But you'll hear a lot about BALA, or the Build American Libraries Act, and that is really just an opportunity to repair, modernize, and construct library facilities in underserved and marginalized communities. So really important to Oklahoma and to many of our libraries that really do need some help to be a 21st century library. And I know that next week, the virtual fly-in is focusing on targeted new congressional members, and Amanda Kordaleski is going to be meeting with Stephanie Bice on that and helping her to understand how these federal dollars flow back to Oklahoma, the importance of them to all of our libraries. The innovative approaches to literacy funding comes directly to the State Department of Ed and then is awarded via a competitive grant process. So right now, that federal fund only has $22 million in it. So as you can imagine, that doesn't go very far toward funding at the state level across the United States. So that's why that larger increase is asked for in the innovative approaches to literacy funding. We really want to build that fund so that more of our schools here in Oklahoma would have a chance to receive a competitive grant. And Norman Public Schools has had one of those, and I'm sorry, Charity Mike could chime in if other schools in Oklahoma have used that funding as well. But I do know that Norman Public has had one, and that Amanda will be participating in that first time visit next week. But Catherine and I felt that our visit went really well, and the feedback from the entire fly-in delegation has been that conversations have been good. Obviously, we're talking to a supporter and somebody who really understands libraries. Everyone is not that lucky, just like we're really lucky with the panelists that we're going to be talking to today who understand libraries and their impact. So Aiden, thank you for the opportunity to share that, and I'm happy to answer any questions offline or talk more about it, but just thanks for the update.
Thank you, Lisa. Well, whether you realize it or not, on the call today, everyone is an advocate. Whether you are attending an event at the nation's capital, visiting our state capitol, in line at the grocery store, or sitting next to your neighbor at the ball fields, everyone has the opportunity to speak positively and share knowledge about the important work that you do each and every day in all of our libraries. And that makes each of you an advocate. Well, next I'm going to be introducing our panelists for today. And I do have some photos here, beautiful official photos. And I'm gonna share a little bit about each of our participants. Representative Tony Hassenbeck worked for 19 years as an educator, teaching all ages of children, most recently teaching 7th grade at Elgin Public Schools. She and her husband have 3 children, ages 20, 16, and 9, and the family owns a cow-calf operation outside of Elgin. She has a background in agriculture, and her father, Butch Young, is a nationally known auctioneer. She serves as the Vice Chair of Public Health, Vice Chair of the State and Federal Redistricting Southwest Oklahoma Subcommittee, and on the Administrative Rules, A and B Transportation, and Higher Education and Career Tech Committees. So welcome. Next, we have Senator Brenda Stanley. She has served as a public school teacher and principal for 43 years, mostly in the Mid-Dell, Choctaw, Nakoma Park area, until her retirement in 2016. Since her retirement, she has taught as an adjunct professor at UCO, supervising student teachers, and worked as a project manager for Rose State. She grew up in Georgia and was the first of her family to attend college. She serves on the Education, Retirement, and Insurance, and is Vice Chair of Veterans and Military Affairs. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to stop sharing these photos.
Aiden?
Yes?
I can say that Senator Matthews has just joined.
Fantastic. Okay, let me find his. Let's see. Okay. I'm looking for his feed so I can spotlight it. Oh, is it under Kevin's iPhone?
Yes.
There
yes.
we go. Okay. We're going to add a spotlight then. And I am actually going to share. I did have some remarks about Senator Kevin Matthews as well. I'm so glad you're here. He has served for 25 years on the Tulsa Fire Department before retiring in 2010 as Administrative Fire Chief. He is the membership chair of the 100 Black Men of Tulsa Mentoring Organization and a charter member of the North Tulsa Rotary Club. He is a 2015 graduate of Leadership Oklahoma. As a fellow Leadership Oklahoma graduate, I'll say that he's probably in the second best class ever. That's an inside joke if you are a member of LOK. He is the chair of the Oklahoma Legislative Black Caucus and the Democratic Caucus. He has two sons, one of whom, Sterling, is a spoken word artist and an elementary school youth specialist in Tulsa. His other son, Kevin Jr., works for Mayor de Blasio. He serves on appropriations, government and transportation, public safety, retirement and insurance, and the Select Committee on Redistricting and Transportation. All right, please help me welcome then all three of our legislators here today. So if you wouldn't mind going ahead and unmuting your microphones. Right, welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Well, as Lisa mentioned, we can reflect upon the year that has passed since our last Advocacy Day for libraries. We can all be proud of our resiliency and the innovative ways that Oklahomans and Oklahoma libraries have responded to the challenges and opportunities we've all faced in our communities. Libraries have always led the way in fighting disinformation, addressing inequality, and providing support to learners of all ages. This past year, we have pivoted to expand our support to our online learners. Many of us have implemented curbside delivery and become digital content creators for online programs. We expanded our Wi-Fi access outside our buildings and upped speeds for broadband access, and have provided valuable access to e-government services and telemedicine. We sewed thousands of masks for community groups, 3D printed face shields for local hospitals in our maker spaces while we were closed, and worked with local legislators to promote free copies for constituents who needed to register to vote or mail in their ballots. So while our buildings may have been closed, we know that the library was never truly closed. So with those thoughts in mind, I'd like to ask each of our legislators to please share with us briefly your personal experience or quote unquote library story and what role your local library plays in your community. So I think just to be maybe consistent, why don't we go alphabetically by last name? So Representative Hassenbeck, that question goes to you first.
Well, it's still morning. Good morning to everyone. I'm actually sitting in the parking lot of the Lawton Public Library, but I did use the filter because I'm inside my car. From the time I was very young, I got to enjoy the Edmund Lowe Library on the campus of Oklahoma State University. I grew up about 12 miles from that library. And so just knowing how to use a library and the importance of the library like that, having a library like that in your community that anyone really can have access to, is just something I've carried with me my entire life. I worked in public schools for a while. I got to teach second grade one year. And after I did that, our school decided, because the State Department asked them very nicely that they needed to have more than just one librarian for 1,500 kids. So I was part of the library expansion project at Elgin Public Schools. And I had a really good friend that was a school librarian, and she just kind of, I don't know, she was really a role model for all educators, especially me as a new educator. She pulled me aside one time and talked to me about how important it was as a teacher to always look nice and smell nice and dress nice, because that could be a little girl's only touch with a person that has an advanced degree. And that has just kind of always stood with me, that is maybe a little bit a part of what is our profession. as educators. And honestly, our municipal librarians and university librarians, they become community leaders and community facilitators. And so I just love librarians. I love the job they do. It's really hard. I left the library the day that I just wanted to throw all the books away as opposed to putting them back on the shelf. And I didn't even have to put them on the shelf personally. I actually had help. But I thought that was a good time to transition. But I just cannot say enough positive things about the job that you guys are doing, the difficulty of the job that you have had in the last year. And I have a municipal library in Elgin, which is literally, well, if I launched a potato rocket, I could for sure hit the building, but I might even be able to throw a potato from my front yard, and definitely I can get in the parking lot of the library. So I don't have any excuses not to go there. I don't go there as often as I should. I do go there a lot though to process paperwork and do email. And we have a brand new library facility in Elgin, and our librarian Leslie Durham has really gone above and beyond. And I guess my bit of coaching today would be, if they give you a new building and tell you it's not going to be able to be inhabited for a year, you just call your friends and move your stuff, and then you're in the new building. So I really commend her for her, okay, I'm just going to do it attitude, and our community is better because of it. So thank you.
Aiden, you muted and then you unmuted.
Okay, how about now?
You're
Can
good
you
now.
hear me? All right, Senator Matthews, what about you? A library experience, personal library story that you'd like to share with us today?
Well, libraries have been so important to me. I grew up on Seminole Street in North Tulsa, where the Rudisill Library was only 2 blocks from my house. And every day after school, I would go, and then they used to have story time that I would go and listen to stories. And I just developed a love for reading and was able to travel the world through reading at my local library. My mother was a single parent, and so I spent a lot of time at the library and developed a love for reading that is carried throughout my life. And so now I live 1 block off Greenwood near the new location of the Rudisill Library. And my 2 sons, Kevin Matthews II and Sterling, used to go to the library with me because on the fire department, we have so many written tests that we would study at the Rudisill Library. And I would have them with me all the time. And my punishment for my kids, if they were not good, they didn't get to go to the library and read, and they would cry.
Oh,
That was their punishment. If they weren't good, they weren't going to get to go to the library. And they, when I was the PTA president, my kids would always say, readers are leaders. Readers are leaders. And they are both leaders. One is now a teacher. One did Teach for America and is a tremendously successful young man. And that had to do with us having the Rudisill Library within blocks from our house that we use throughout our lifetime. And then when I got elected, that's where I had every one of my forums. Kim Johnson used to be there and help us to facilitate those. And so the library is very important. We even at one time had a genealogy lab where I could learn where my family came from. And so the library is significantly important to me and my family. Thank you.
thank you so much. And I know Kim is on the call with us today, so I'm sure she's loving all of these wonderful stories. And Senator Stanley, what about you? Share your comments for us, please.
Mine is a little bit different, probably, as a former educator and administrator in public schools. My thoughts about the Media Center always was they had to be an integral part of the school. We had to make sure that children had quality time in the library. And like Senator Matthews said that he used to quote, readers are leaders. We did that all the time. I had professional learning communities in my schools, and I always included the media specialist in those learning communities. It was vital for the success of my children in my schools. So we always had set library times, but my libraries were always open the entire time that we were in school. We opened our media center 30 minutes ahead of school time, and we closed it 30 minutes after school because I wanted to make sure every child had that opportunity to flow seamlessly in and out of the media center to make sure they got the materials that they needed. I wanted my children to develop a love for reading. I wanted my children to see the media center as the hub of activity for the school. I always located my media centers in the central portion of the school to make sure children were going in and out of the media centers as much and as many times as they wanted. When the onset of accelerated reader came on, we always had not only those tests available in the media centers as well as in the classrooms. And it was amazing to me to watch the little children take their books in and out of the media center. They would take their tests, score very well, go grab another book off the shelf. I always wanted my children to have a book in their hands, making sure that we provided time for them to read, not only in the classroom and not only subject matter in the classrooms, but I wanted them reading for pleasure too. And I wanted them to know how important reading was in my life, and I wanted it to be important in their lives. I did a lot of time in classrooms as a principal, reading to my students. I wanted them to see that I loved it, so they would love it. As far as municipal libraries are concerned, we have one in Midwest City and we have one in Choctaw, and we just opened a brand new, beautiful state-of-the-art library in Dale City that I got to be a part of. Just, I think that was a week or so ago. We had the ribbon cutting. It was fabulous. And that just, when you have facilities like that, that are welcoming and engaging to students in the community, I think that is just vital for our communities. This new media center and new library, I go back and forth with those terms, in Dale City has a community engagement area. It has an area for small children, and it is beautiful. The colors are vibrant. I love that. I love the invitation just the facility offers to our communities. There is in that media center as well an area for high school kids just to come and hang out. The technology is state of the art. It is just beautiful. And a little side note to my husband, who is deceased now, was he was a publisher's rep, and he called on media centers throughout the state of Oklahoma, public schools as well as city libraries, and he loved every minute of that. I'm looking at your faces, and I know that you're too young to remember him. He was Fred Stanley. He repped 12 to 13 publishers, and he would travel the state and loved getting to know all of the media specialists and the librarians in our state. And then another connect I have with libraries, I started Smart Start in Choctaw, Oklahoma. And we had friends of the library that donated books to us. I had toddlers in my media center at my school in Choctaw reading to those children, and I invited different guests in, whether it was a veterinarian, a dentist. I had all sorts of special guest people in reading to my children and getting children engaged in different professions as well. I think that pretty much sums up my library experience. I could go all the way back to when I was in school and we used the card catalog, and I know that is not in existence now. I loved the media centers when I was growing up. I was always a part of our local library, going in and out and checking out books. I thought that was wonderful. And as my bio said, I am the first person in my family to ever go to college. So that readers are leaders is true. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I saw lots of great reactions during all of your comments. People putting up either high fives or little hearts on their reactions. So thank you so much. What a wonderful way to kick off this virtual advocacy day. Thank you all. Well, we know that in spite of the call for physical distancing for health concerns, we also know that the need for social and emotional connections, which all of you referenced, have not diminished. Libraries continue to provide engagement for all ages, now through virtual programming, things like curbside delivery of materials and online experiences such as book clubs. Please share with us the importance you feel libraries can play in creating civic and social engagement.
Well, I think just,
Go ahead, Representative. Sorry.
okay, thank you. I think just as the model that we look at where Senator Stanley talked about that library being in the center of the school so that all the students are interacting with it. I think that has been so highlighted with COVID. Just like I'm sitting in the parking lot, a lot of people were able to get the resources they needed just to maintain their family because libraries provided internet access all over the state. And I don't think that we can over highlight the role that our library internet systems played in helping people recover during this pandemic. I think it's also a great source. We've got to teach people how to access resources. And so I think when libraries are able to reach out to groups in their community and bring those groups into the library and people know to go to the library for other things, I think that's how our communities get better. And I think that's how we actually utilize a lot of the dollars that we're spending, not only in libraries, not only in schools, but every other thing that our government is spending money on.
Thank you. Senator Matthews, you had some comments?
Yes. Yes. I think that I want to piggyback on what the representative said about the access to internet that was so important to our community. And I want to say, Kim Johnson is my hero, and the technology that now is available that people can check out books on their phone, can actually check out books on their phone. That is an amazing advancement. And at our library, every computer was always full before the pandemic, because access to internet had been a significant problem in certain communities, and the library filled that gap. But I had to learn from someone else when I couldn't go there that I could have an app on my phone and check out books. And I thought that was the coolest thing. And it was a great thing that was available for people that couldn't actually go in person. And so that technology piece was so important. Thank you.
Thank you. And Senator Stanley, your thoughts?
Yes. Senator Matthews is exactly right. That was huge, getting that app and being able to check out books on your phone. That was amazing to me. And it's also so vitally important in our communities that when a person doesn't have access to the internet in their homes, we can always say, you can go to the public library. You can fill out forms on a computer there. And media specialists are so important to teach people how to even get an email address. Some of our older folks, like myself, would not know how to access an email account if the media specialists were not there helping them. And I love that you can go into a library and find somebody to answer your questions and help you become more learned in your communities. That's a place too in our community where some of our virtual schools and we're able to go to media centers and use their facilities to actually teach children, not only during the pandemic, but prior to that. And I think they rented spaces or just had children meet them at the local libraries to do their academics, which was wonderful too. I just can't emphasize enough how important it is for the availability of libraries and the usefulness of them to our citizens in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
I
We actually,
wanted to answer a question that's in the chat, and I want to direct this to Senator Stanley, who has been such a great advocate for education and reading in the Senate. And since we're both on both sides of the aisle, the question, Senator Stanley, was, as we look at the broadband internet discussion that's happening, could there be a person from the library system on that committee? And I know I would support that. And Senator Stanley, what do you think from us in the Senate?
Absolutely. In fact, before the session started, Senator Matthews, in our caucus, we had big conversations about broadband, the width that we need in our rural areas. So that is certainly on my radar, certainly on some of our people in my caucus. We know that's vital. We've got to get that figured out. And I would love to have a good appropriation for that accessibility to our rural communities. You're exactly right. We've got to get ahead of this ball game in that area.
If Senator Stanley is supporting it, as it sounds like she is, I am the chair of our caucus, and it's a majority educators now, and a majority of women, and a majority of folks that care about reading and education. So yes, I would be supportive of that. And so you can reach out to my office or Senator Stanley's office. We would be very supportive of having input from the library system on broadband internet, which we need in rural areas and areas like mine. Yes.
thank you.
To further expound on that, I think if we've had a positive from this pandemic, we are learning how vital broadband is to our communities. And I am so excited about the work that we're doing in the Senate, trying to move that forward and get that accessibility to all our communities. So that is a one positive I can think of this pandemic that has happened. Thank you.
Can our representative weigh in on whether she would support that on the other side?
Oh, absolutely. I just sent an email to our chairman that questioning if there are librarians, and if not, why not? And when can we get librarians put on the council?
Getting work done. I love it. This is great. Thank you so much. Well, our next question was actually more about internet access, but I think we have certainly covered the gambit there. So I'm going to move on, but our next comments, let's see here. So the Oklahoma Library Association was recently contacted by the Office of Emergency Management to help distribute reliable information about disaster-related claims through FEMA. We've also been vital in providing users with reliable and unbiased information regarding a variety of topics, ranging from healthcare, scheduling vaccine appointments, accessing COVID results, to locating election information. Library professionals have always made it their mission to provide accurate information to the public and to show users how to recognize reputable resources. Are there any special programs or services you are interested in that you think could help benefit from partnering with their local library to help spread the word to citizens?
Okay, well, I think it would be great if every librarian could adopt a legislator, and perhaps, and I'll just say in my side, adopt a legislator and teach them about reliable sources. That, I think it would save us so much time and heartache and headache, and that would be great. Then my next wish would be maybe we could contract in some way, ways to get accurate stories out about what's going on in the Capitol. I think that would help. And maybe I'm kind of teasing a little bit, but at the same time, teaching people how to get the real story about what's going on in the legislature in crunch times, when it's stuff that matters to your livelihood or to your health or to your education. So I do think, I mean, maybe that's something, you know, and I guess you add that as people come and ask you for it. But I think that's really important. I got so sidetracked. I'm so excited about the idea of librarians teaching legislators what primary and secondary sources are. I kind of lost my train of thought. I'm gonna stop talking and just think about that while.
We appreciate that.
Okay, so let me brag on Kim Johnson again. And at our library, when she was there, we had every person from the school board member to the city councilor to the state representative and the Oklahoma State Senate all come once a month and have a forum for the public to come, and we gave reports on our different avenues. We took questions, and we even formed committees around education, healthcare, public safety, economic development, and incarceration reintegration, which were the issues in our community. And that happened for several years. And as she moved on, it kind of, you know, it kind of separated, but that was a great way for people to learn, get their problems solved, to know what was happening at different levels of government, and to get quick answers. And that was under her leadership.
Fantastic work. I know I've seen lots of libraries that maybe have city hall forums, but certainly expanding that and getting all of the players together. What a great idea. Senator Stanley, what about you?
Yes, I think also, just like Senator Matthews said, that's a great way to get good information out, to have forums in the public libraries and have everybody, all the players to the table, whether those be legislators, school board members, city council members. I think we owe it to the public to provide those opportunities. We are here to serve you as citizens, and we need to make sure we represent you correctly and get good information out. I was looking and thinking too, the healthcare aspect. We are going more and more to virtual healthcare with our physicians, and a big area that I'm interested in is mental health care. And I think the library could play a big part in that, of offering services for people to go and access mental health care through telemedicine, especially as we have expanded Medicaid. And those folks would be maybe, if they don't have internet access at home, that they would be happy to come to a library and have a place in the media center and the libraries where they could do mental health appointments. I just think we're going to see more and more people that need those services. And that is really worrisome to me in our climate, in our state, in our nation. And I think the availability of telemedicine is going to be huge, and accessing mental health services as well. So I know the libraries can play a part of that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I know that just from my own experience, we've had to help so many people access services like that, and it has only increased with the pandemic. So these are great thoughts. I'm loving the Adopt a Legislator. I think we might have our mission for advocacy for next year as committee. I won't be chair, but I'm happy to help with that part. I think that's wonderful. Okay, our next question. Adapting to the challenges of our new realities, which we've mentioned so many times already, by offering innovative solutions can be exciting and life-changing for our citizens. Yet innovation is seldom free and often requires libraries to commit funds for new access, new materials, services, and operations. Our state agency, the Oklahoma Department of Libraries, has been consistently recognized as successful in distributing funds that are vital to these causes and that affects every single Oklahoman. When the Oklahoma Department of Libraries budget is reduced, it prompts a reduction in federal dollars. To maximize our federal dollars, we know that we need to maintain and increase state funding. As legislators, we know that you are faced with the difficult decision of allocating funds to state agencies. What factors do you weigh when considering funding decisions? And what information do you wish you knew in advance when making those decisions?
This one is really simple. If you can talk to your legislators and make sure that you use these words when funding is dependent upon, when federal funding is dependent upon state funds and those matching funds, if you let them know immediately up front, this is a maintenance of effort request. The MOE is really meaningful to budget staff, to budget committee members, to budget chairmen. Nobody wants to be responsible for losing those MOE dollars. And sometimes we don't, sometimes that doesn't always work out. But if you say, if I know that, if I get an email that says this is a maintenance of effort request, I will take that two places. I will send an email to the chairman of that subcommittee, and I will send that directly to the chair and vice chair of House Appropriations. And if it's one that is particularly important to the state of Oklahoma, I will also send that to the Appropriations chair in the Senate. And that maintenance of effort is so meaningful.
Thank you. Senator Matthews.
Yes, I'm on two comments. Representative, I'm gonna have to call you back.
Okay, all right.
I was on two conversations. What was the question? Sorry.
That is okay. We were just talking about the fact that all of the new and innovative services that the libraries have been able to offer are dependent on funding. And as legislators, we know that you may be faced with that difficult decision of allocating funds to state agencies. What factors do you weigh when considering funding decisions, and what information do you wish you knew in advance when making those decisions? Because we know that when the Oklahoma Department of Libraries budget is reduced, it is then a maintenance of effort issue and a reduction of federal dollars.
Well, what I suggest is the most effective way to make things happen in the legislature for me, and I have to be keenly aware of that since my party is in the super minority, is to plan ahead and create an interim study and an opportunity to find out if your issue, or find out all of the ways that your issue benefit all Oklahomans. Many times we get pitted with, this is going to help the urban areas versus the rural areas. This is only going to help this community versus that community. And so when we get a study and find best practices, where if you needed funding for internet, broadband internet, then we have the opportunity to find out what other states have done it, how they did it, how it's going to benefit our state, and what are the commonalities across all of our districts that we would support. And then we get to practice by going in front of the committee that's going to do the funding. And then we do what I call closing all avenues to know. We find out what problem they have with it, and then we fix it before a session. And then those people that made those suggestions have to vote for it because they told you what to do. And so it's about having a plan. It's about looking at the research of what's been done in other places that's successful and how it applies to our state in common ways, so that it's not us versus them. It's all of us in Oklahoma, and solving problems. How would this now make us have a better prepared workforce? How would this help our economy? How would this make us have more college graduates? How would this reduce our prison population? All of those things, and each of those touch points is what makes funding easier.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Senator Stanley, your thoughts?
Thank you. As a matter of fact, just what Senator Matthews said, we had an interim study. I wasn't involved in it this summer, but I got to watch it through Zoom, and it was an interim study on broadband width and how much we need broadband in our rural areas. It was put on by Senator Lee Wright. He's can't think of the area that he represents. It'll come to me in a minute.
Business and commerce.
I'm sorry, what, Senator Matthews?
I think it's business and commerce.
Yeah, but I was thinking about the physical area that he represents. It's not.
Oh, okay. He's in Sapulpa, Oklahoma, near Tulsa.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, Senator Matthews. He is, Senator Lee Wright is business and commerce, and he held this interim study this summer. And he is from Sapulpa. That is correct also. And his cohort in the interim study was Senator Murdoch, who is out in the Panhandle in Felt, Oklahoma. I think he's maybe 3 or 4 miles from the New Mexico line, and how much difficulty they have in getting internet services there. It was a great interim study. They've done a lot of research. Senator Matthews is exactly right. What they brought to the table was wonderful, and that's what's brought and made our conversation in our caucus more real for me, because I do live in the metro area. I don't have a problem. I am not a rural legislator, but we need to do exactly what Senator Matthews said. We need to look at the good for all Oklahoma, irregardless if you live in the rural area or suburban area, and how can we make your life better and address these problems to make sure that we get good education to not only our children, but to our adults. And that's why, to me, libraries are so vitally important in our community, because you all disseminate information for everyone. And I appreciate everything you do for our citizens of Oklahoma. And I believe our job as elected officials is to allocate the funds properly so you all can do your jobs more effectively, and in turn, make Oklahoma a better state. Thank you.
Thank you. I know that at the beginning of our event today, we were able to share that map of libraries across Oklahoma with just highlighting how every single county in Oklahoma does have a public library. And I absolutely agree with your comments. Thank you. So this is our last question that we had prepared in advance. And then after that, we are almost at time. So if we do have any questions from the audience, if you want to put those, make sure you have those in the chat, and we can see if we can get to one or two of them, depending on everyone's schedules. I know it's a busy day. So our last question that we do have for everyone. We have library staff with us today, ranging from seasoned advocates who regularly attend opportunities with legislators to those who are new in their career fields and may have never participated in any advocacy work. We know this can be an intimidating role to take on. What advice would you give to these young professionals who are interested in communicating with their legislators and forming relationships both in and out of session?
Representative, if I could, because I'm going to leave in 1 minute.
Okay.
I just want to say that take the time to come and visit us. Already have planned what you want your outcome to be, and just introduce yourself and check in regularly and pay attention to that legislator's work and just become an ally and a friend, because we don't have a ton of them. So that's what I would have to say. Thank you, guys.
Thank you
And
so much.
PM Johnson, for inviting me.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I would just like to let everyone know I love frosted sugar cookies. I mean, I'm kidding. Don't bring me cookies. I try not to eat stuff at the Capitol. But I think that whole idea of sitting down with someone and breaking bread, that idea of that's just really how we communicate. That's how good stuff happens at the Capitol. Contact your legislators, send them a real letter that you wrote yourself and let them know a little bit about you. And, you know, I love it when somebody tells me something great that happened in their library that made a difference in the life of a family or a community. And don't feel like you're bragging when you're telling us that stuff, because when we go to the appropriations chairman and say, we have to fix this money problem, we really like to be able to go to them with stories that have made a difference in their communities and in our communities. But just don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call us either. If something major happens that you need help with, because a lot of these solutions to these problems that happen short term and between the budget, sometimes we can help you with those. And it's literally a phone call or an email. It's not even, sometimes it's not hard for us. Other things take a little more time, but I don't know of anyone who isn't willing to do that kind of stuff. And we hate it when we hear about something and we didn't have the opportunity to fix it. So I guess just call us more often, come see us, make sure that we, know who you are when you're calling, because we just all really, we're doing this to help people.
Thank you. Senator Stanley.
I agree. I love those personal phone calls, and realize too that we get hundreds of those, literally, and hundreds of emails every day. So if we don't get back to you right away, it's not that we're ignoring you. We want to make sure we answer every phone call. We want to make sure we answer emails. And I appreciate that opportunity, sitting down in person with people. And I also love to know your positives of what's going on in your libraries. We also need to know what your needs are. We can't fix it if we don't know. So that communication is really, really important to me. And I also agree, we get hundreds and hundreds of emails, and sometimes they're the same one that somebody's just copied and pasted, and those aren't too meaningful, really, to me. I like those personal ones that say who you are, who you represent, and what your needs are. Thank you.
Fantastic. So it looks like we do have one question that is coming in through the chat. This is from Lisa Wells. What is the possibility of using funds from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 to fund broadband across our state?
You know, that is an excellent question, and I will certainly ask it. I'm not sure where all those monies are allocated to, but I'll sure ask and find out. Representative Hassenbeck, do you know the answer to that?
Well, exactly what you said is correct. We got to find out. I know that some of the funds were only available to do things now. And so that's kind of that tricky part, establishing new stuff that we would continue to use in the future. Even though the regulation sheet that kind of gave schools and communities and agencies the rights to do all that stuff were very vague, it gets a little tricky when you're trying to expand stuff for future use, which doesn't really make any sense. But I will look into that very specifically on that specific fund.
Thank you. Okay, I'm looking through the chat. I don't see any other questions. So at this time, then, I am going to thank both of our legislators, all three of our legislators who were able to join us. I do want to just say how amazing this day has been for us so far. It is our virtual advocacy day. I'd like to also encourage all of the members who are on the call to reach out to your individual legislators and to continue the conversation. So even though the focus was on today and this event, I want to encourage everyone to think of it as the beginning of that relationship, the beginning of a new time where you can reach out, form those relationships, and consider adopting your local legislator. I think that's a fantastic idea. I'm loving that. So at this point, I'm going to put in a plug for our Engage legislative page on the Oklahoma Library Association website. That is a place where you can go to help if you need to track bills, if you need to find out who your legislator is and you don't know yet. We also put advocacy alerts on there, and then we share information from the American Library Association from their advocacy and legislative committees. So I'd like to encourage all members to visit that page. And just a reminder that this committee is open to any member. So right now, all of the committee forms are available. So if you are not an advocacy committee member, but you were as blown away as I was today by the fantastic engagement that we were able to have with our legislators, I would encourage people to attend. So we also have a message from Dan Cott. So thank yous are just coming in to our legislators for the support of the vital library systems and services and for taking the time to speak and attend today. So thank you all so much.
Thank you so much for having us. We really enjoyed it.
Yes.
Yes, this is great. And I want to quickly add, I need to update my bio. My children are 24, almost 21, and 13.
Okay.
I just forgot about that. So I need to fix that. Thank you.
That is okay. Well, we know that no matter what age they are, there's something for them at the library. So
there is.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you all so much. I'm going to officially stop recording and just wanted to say thanks one more time.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.